All right, you want to build a multi-million dollar company. Great. But I'm telling you, hard work is not enough. The right idea, not enough. The right team, also not enough. The right funding, not enough. And that's because 99.9% of entrepreneurs suffer from a negative mindset, a dangerous mindset that undermines every single thing that they do, every decision that they make. And I will tell you, as the owner of a business that does millions of dollars in revenue every single year, it wasn't until I got a handle on my mindset and corrected it that I was able to harness my true potential and break away from the pack. Stick around, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, let's go. I'ma make a couple stacks, do exactly what I want to. Mix a couple tracks, get a lady that I'm drawn to. Turn up to the max, get me faded till I'm gone, dude. I do what I want, couldn't stop me if you wanted to. I just work hard, yeah, harder than the rest. Some people say I'm lucky, others saying that I'm blessed. But I keep my head down, cause I crave progress. You ain't never gonna stop me, cause it's...
Guys, if you know my story, I was born into poverty. And in my mind, even as a kid, I was going to work my way out. I worked in construction from before it was legal in my state at a very young age. I moved into the restaurant business. By the time I was in 11th grade, I worked full time, also not legal in my state. I graduated high school. I worked for 2 years, again in construction, very, very hard, way over full time. I split wood on the weekends. And I saved up, in 2 years, I saved up enough to go off to college. From there, I joined the Marine Corps. I enlisted in the Marine Corps. I worked very hard. I outworked everybody. I became an officer in the Marine Corps. Again, I outworked everybody. And in the end, what I became was a decently employed or a decently compensated employee. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, I didn't really have much to speak of. But again, in my mind, I was going to work my way into wealth. I was going to start a business and I would outwork everybody out there. Guess what? It didn't work. And that's because I, along with almost everybody else, am instilled with a couple of very negative, very detrimental, very dangerous mindsets that were inhibiting my growth. Now, before you think that you're not guilty, that you have the right mindset, or even if you're an entrepreneur or you've been an entrepreneur or a business owner for years, that you don't have one of these dangerous mindsets, I will challenge you that you almost certainly do. You almost certainly have at least traces of both of them. So let me cover the first two, and I'm going to ask you, just bear with me. Don't go through this and think about other people as we cover each of these two negative mindsets. I want you to think about how they might be influencing you. Number one, the first negative mindset we have is the entitlement mindset. And I know you're thinking, I didn't grow up with any money. I don't have the entitlement mindset. Yes, you do. As somebody who grew up in poverty, which I just explained, I suffer from this mindset. I still struggle with this mindset, even knowing that it's there. All the entitlement mindset is a baseline that we grew up in. So it might be in the traditional sense that someone was born with money or maybe not even a lot of money, but they always had nice shoes. Every year, they got the new iPhone. They got a car given to them when they turned 16. And so when they go out into the workforce, they expect these good things to keep happening. They don't tie their income or their success to their level of productivity. They don't tie their success to their value or the value they provide because they expect the universe to provide these things. And this type of entitlement mindset is surprised. They're shocked when their employer doesn't give them the way of life that they're used to. But I will tell you, there is another side to this coin, to this entitlement mindset, that is just as common, and it's the one that I carry with me today. I try to get rid of it, I try to diminish it, but it is still with me, right? It is probably with most of you, at least a lot of you. And that entitlement mindset is, I didn't have anything when I grew up. I didn't have anything given to me. I was raised in a negative home. And so that becomes your baseline. Instead of the baseline of, I always have a nice car, I always have nice shoes, I always have a new iPhone every time a new version comes out, to you it's, I'm never going to have those things. The universe hates me. And we don't usually think about it that specifically, right? This is a thought in the back of our mind, not the front of our mind. And so when these decisions come along that are going to move us ahead, they're going to move our business ahead, they're going to create explosive growth in our company, we tend to shut the door on them because we say things like, it's not going to work out. Or what if? What if it doesn't work out? We ask questions and we assume negative outcomes. We say things like this: nobody can ever do it the way that I do. If I bring in an employee, I'm not going to be able to trust them. They're not going to do it like me, and they're going to take my business down. That is a lie, and we'll get into that in a minute. But that is a negative baseline. If that is the baseline that you have, you need to go to war with this, as I did. I ran into a book, actually met the author. It was called The E-Myth Revisited. Doesn't really talk about the mindsets, but he talks about the problem with not taking steps forward. And this entitlement, this mindset, is a problem in terms of taking steps forward. All right, the second negative mindset that'll destroy your business and your income potential is the employee mindset. Now, in this society, and really virtually all societies, we glorify the employee mindset. We talk about the duty-bound employee that always goes to work and he's never late. She's never late and she never steals and she never lies. And when she turns 65, she takes her 401k and she cashes it in and she pays off her home and she gets Social Security and she dies. That's the employee mindset. This mindset is also going to hold you back. Now, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're saying in your mind. Just like you said, I'm not guilty of the entitlement mindset, you're also saying to yourself, well, I'm a business owner. I have my own landscaping company, or I have my own, I sell online, or I have, a bakery or something like that. I don't have the employee mindset. Chances are, yes, you do. Unless you are growing rapidly and in leaps and bounds, you probably suffer from the employee mindset. It goes like this. This is a basic equation for income. It could be for you or it could be for your business. For a lot of you, for solopreneurs, it's the same thing. And it goes like this. My income will equal my rate times my time. And what do we mean by rate? The amount that I make per hour or per job, right? So my rate might be $20 an hour. And then my time is the number of hours that I spend making this rate. So it's very simple to apply to a regular employee. The employee is making $20 an hour. He works or she works 8 hours a day. That's $160 a day. So this is what the employee says. The employee says, if I want more income, I have two ways to influence this equation. I can increase my rate, and maybe if I work hard enough, I can get $22 an hour or $25 an hour. Or we look at a position and say, you know what, if I do a really good job, I can get promoted and, this position makes $30 an hour. So I can increase my rate. The other thing that the employee tends to look at in terms of influencing their income is increasing their time. So the employee thinks, all right, I can't immediately influence my rate, or if the employee thinks that, then they say, well, you know what? Maybe I'll work 9 hours a day or 10 hours a day, or I'll pick up that extra shift, and that's how I'll influence my income. Well, this is a huge problem for the entrepreneur. Why? Because the entrepreneur, most entrepreneurs, 99% at least, get into a business and they think, all right, I'm doing it. I'm working hard. If I can just work a little harder, if I can just work a little more, if I can just raise my rate just a little bit, if I can find a way to streamline something and work for more time, increase my time. And most of the time when we bring on employees, we're really only thinking about how those employees can enable us to increase our time. So you are always limited by the rate you can make and the time that you are able or willing to work. If this seems normal or it seems okay, or you don't if you don't see a problem with it, you will in a second when we compare it to the entrepreneur mindset. This one is the healthy one. This is the one guys like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates have. You can say what you want. You can think what you want about them. You can hate them. That's fine. But they made it. Jeff Bezos, he's on I've got a founder's wall, right? All these guys are on a wall on the other side of the camera. These guys have an entrepreneur mindset. They don't ask, how can I increase my rate? For me personally, they don't ask how they can increase their time. They add to this equation. The entrepreneur with the correct mindset adjusts this equation, sort of, and I'll show you how. So where the employee says that their income equals rate times time, the entrepreneur says, no, my income equals rate times time times leverage. What is leverage? Generally, people, right? It could be robotics, could be software or something like that. But it is a thing, it is a factor of these two elements of rate and time. So now bear with me for a minute here. Let's take this piece by piece. If I'm working for $50 an hour, 10 times a day, or 10 hours a day, what's 50 times 10? It's 500, right? 500. Now, if I multiply that times 2, it's 1,000, right? If I have 2 people that are able to work at this rate in this amount of time, it's 1,000, right? That revenue for my business is now 1,000 a day. Here's what I want you to keep in mind. Even though you might have this employee mindset, you're using the same equation as the entrepreneur. The only difference is your number for leverage is always 1. And that's you. Oftentimes, even if you have employees, again, that number is 1. The employee is cleaning or doing research so that you can increase your rate and increase your time on a given project or source of revenue. So when you increase your time by an hour or 2 hours, you drive this income up very little. But when you grow a team from you and a helper to 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 or 100, this number goes through the roof. And in the end, all of us should be constantly seeking to take ourselves out of this equation. When you pull yourself out of this equation, you can concentrate on growing this number, on growing your leverage, on making decisions that are going to move the ball forward. Taking yourself out of this equation is going to allow you to have a life. It's going to allow you to travel. It's going to allow you to make more money. But the only way you're going to do this is by recognizing the areas where you have an entitlement mindset so you can take the steps necessary to grow this number. And recognizing where you have an employee mindset and you're relying on yourself to drive this number. The entrepreneur mindset. Until you have it, until I have it, it will probably never be perfect, but until we have this mindset, we will never actualize our full potential. Guys, if you want to leave a comment in the section. Ask me a question. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time.